Stand by to receive our transmission.
Where are you boys from in the world?
Alabama, sir.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Welcome to the Bama Geeks podcast. We are four friends diving into our favorite pop culture topics with a dash of Southern charm.
We have the tools, we have talent. It's Miller time.
Whoa, this is heavy.
Pizza dude's got 30 seconds.
Wait, what? Crazy? You didn't say I was crazy.
You got the wrong guy. I'm the dude, man.
You want something done, you've got to do it yourself.
Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes!
So grab your biscuits and gravy, a glass of sweet tea, and enjoy the nerdy hospitality of Brock and Jessica Parker, Bo Bearden, and Kevin Gardner.
This is the way.
This is the way.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being Ghostbusters. Not everyone knows what you guys do and what it means to wear this uniform the way that you guys do, and the charity work that you guys do, and the way that you guys try to make the world a better place. It means so much to me. It means so much to my family. It means so much to the creators of Ghostbusters. And I never thought I'd be capable of picking up this film. And I thought about all of you as I was making it. I wanted to make a movie that you would love. I wanted to give you one more ride in Ecto 1. I always talk about seeing Return of the Jedi as a kid. It's a Star Wars film. And coming out of the theater, all I wanted to do was know what it was like to get on a speeder bike and ride through the forest on Endor. This is a movie about the rest of us. The first two movies, they were about the guys. This one is about us. All of us who always wanted to be Ghostbusters, including me, by the way. We wanted to know what it was like to ride in Ecto 1, but I wanted to take it one step further. I wanted to know what it was like to hang out this side of Ecto 1, fly around the corner with a proton pack in my hand, and catch a ghost going 70 miles an hour. Yeah! We all played with the toys. This is literally just like a movie of like what we did with the toys. So, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for everyone who made this film. This movie, sit through the credits. I know you will. You know it's in at the end. There's 1,000 people who work on this film. They all love this movie. They all love Ghostbusters as much as you guys. We were all hiding the Easter eggs in there. Right? And I hope you appreciate all the detailed work that went into it, whether it's this time or the next time you see it. More than anything, I just hope you love this film, because you never expect a tentpole film to be the most personal journey I ever went through as a storyteller, but that's exactly what it was. So, from my family, your family, enjoy Ghostbusters Afterlife. Thank you.
And that is Jason Reitman talking to the fans at the worldwide premiere in New York City of Ghostbusters Afterlife. What a great speech that was. We hope you're doing well. You kind of got a taste now of what this episode is going to be about. And of course, as you've seen in all the descriptions, I'm not even going to play the sound. This is a spoiler review. We are going to absolutely talk about any and everything in the brand new Ghostbusters Afterlife. I'm Brock Parker. With me, as always, three of the most important people in my life.
It's Jessica.
It's Kevin.
And I promise I won't be a blubbering mess. It's Bo.
No, you will be a blubbering mess. We have all been a blubbering mess. And to make this even more special, we're actually not recording this on our normal day. We would be recording this the Sunday before you hear it, but it's actually a week earlier. It is Sunday, November 21st, 2021. It is the 77th birthday of one Egon Spengler, Harold Ramis.
Happy birthday, Harold.
Happy birthday, Harold. Yep. We absolutely love and miss you, and we thought it only fitting to record the podcast this day because it is Harold's birthday, and it is the opening weekend of the movie we've been waiting 32 years for, Ghostbusters Afterlife. And we're just going to talk about it.
32 years, guys. Wow.
Been a long time. As we mentioned last episode, Jess and I both saw it originally in 1984, not together. We didn't know each other existed until 2016. But yeah, I was 8 years old seeing the original movie in the theater, and that is what hooked me. It's my favorite film franchise of all time. And I was 8. Jess, you were...
June of 84. I would have just turned 7.
7, yeah.
Yeah. I was born in 77. Let's do the math here, folks. My goodness. This movie came out in June of 84. So, yes, that does. I'm correct, right? 7 years old?
Sure.
Okay.
I know better than to talk about a woman's age, so.
At midlife, we have no shame anymore. So, Kevin, Bo, what about you guys? What was your first experience? Have we ever touched on that? What was your first experience of Ghostbusters?
I don't remember. I remember watching it when I was a kid, but it didn't. I know this is blasphemy. I'm probably the least effective Ghostbusters fan here. It didn't quite hit me like, my other love of my life, Star Wars, did. But I do remember when I first saw it. I don't remember like all the details and whatnot because I was a kid, but I know it was one of those 80s movies when I was a kid that really, really affected me. And I think like a lot of us that are probably listening to this podcast, it means a lot to me.
For me, I'm trying to think probably when it bit me was around this, of course, in June of 84, I would be a whole 3 years old. But for me, I think I got around like 5-ish around the time RGB started playing on TV. And they, used to back in the day when a movie came out in theaters and then after it came out on like to own on video, it'd take like years before it would show up on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I remember my exposure to the movie was like the ABC Sunday night movie. So there's a lot of things in the movie that I didn't know existed, much like lines about the sailor line about Stay Puft, because I didn't know that was in there because back then it was a different time and a line like that wouldn't be on the Sunday night movie.
Yeah.
So that was that was my exposure to the movie on TV and the real Ghostbusters. Like I said, of course, I saw 2. I was 8 in 89, so I got to see 2 in theaters. So, but that, like I said, that's my initial introduction to Ghostbusters is that way.
It kind of reminds me of, some of the things you didn't know what happened in the movie as it's been edited out. I had a previous acquaintance in another life. He recorded Frosty the Snowman for his kids on the VHS tape, and the tape cut off after Frosty melted.
Oh, no.
And so they went their entire childhood not knowing that Frosty came back to life.
Man, talk about traumatized. Wow.
Did he do that on purpose?
No, tape ran out. But that's the only, he taped it off TV. And so that's the only way that's the only ending to Frosty they knew. And he used to tell the story. He's like, when they were in their 20s or whatever, they finally saw it not on the tape. And they're like, wait, he came back to life? They
saw Frosty the Snowman Afterlife, I guess.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Wow.
He said he felt so horrible, but he didn't. That was the only copy they ever kept, and they only watched it during Christmas, so he never thought about it. But then they grew up and like, oh, Dad, hello.
How could you not think about that? That's wow.
Wow.
It's like I said with Ghostbusters, like I said, the joke about Walter Peck, where I growing up, I was always it was Wally Wick or some kind of rodent.
Yep.
That's what I knew that joke was until about probably like 10 or 11 when I saw it on HBO at a friend's house.
It's funny, you can still catch the edited versions here and there depending on what station is playing it. When we were watching it just not too long ago, when it came on, I want to say it came on FX, I think. FX didn't edit anything out. I think Freeform still does, and BBC America. So it just depends on who you're watching it at.
We'll go ahead and tell you if you are worried about anything in this movie, since we are talking about edited versions in the new Ghostbusters Afterlife movie. Perfectly safe to take the kids. It's very mild as far as language.
Language wise, and 1 or 2, I guess what you would say, alluding to things, but like nothing you're going to be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, the worst thing is jump scares. There's a handful of jump scares in it, And they will get you kids. And I mean,
they're still getting me.
They got all of, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I took my 6-year-old today, and like I said, there's 1 or 2 that got him, but he took him like a champ. Also, I gave him a heads up. I was like, hey, there's going to be a scary part here, so there you go. So
You're much nicer than I am. When I take my kids, by the time this airs, they would have already seen it. But when I take my kids in a few days, I'm not telling them anything.
Well, I want to see their reactions.
Well, you've got like teens and preteens, or both of them teens now.
One's about to, or the last one's about to be.
Okay, so you're in that area, so it's good to mess with them. Then, like I said, my little boy, he's 6, man. That's some, nightmare fuel is going to be sleep depravity fuel for me, I guess. So
my son is very skittish. He is extremely skittish. And so I'm not telling him a thing. I want to see him jump because if the sound gets too loud in the theater, he jumps. And I'm like, okay.
And then he screams, you tell him, take a salt tablet and walk it off.
Be a man.
Well, and while we're kind of on the subject of kids and stuff, it's, I've seen a lot of the kids coming to see the movie in the showings we've been a part of. And prior to us seeing the movie, like I said, we were doing everything we can to avoid any type of spoilers or any giveaways prior to seeing the movie. And that went along with a lot of the late night TV interviews that were airing prior to seeing the movie. And one thing that was, I think in the Seth Meyers interview that came out with the guys, this is one thing Seth was talking about, him going to see the movie as a kid, and the fact that, Dan Aykroyd said they were very mindful, even when they made the first movie, that they were trying to create a movie for everyone, for kids to be involved, for parents to bring their kids, for families to come see it. So they were very mindful of that when making the movie. And you see them continuing to talk about this in the interviews that they've been giving here recently, that, especially Ernie. Ernie's talked about, his experience is seeing where you've got not only, maybe grandchildren, but great-grandchildren of people who originally viewed the movie, and to see how this movie will bring families together to have the fandoms and the costumes and the love of the movie. So,
well, I think family's a good project because I'm on July. That's the main story of the movie. On top of Ghostbusters, it's a good family story.
Yeah, that was one of the heart of this film for Jason was about family.
Yeah, definitely being able to work side by side with his dad, Ivan Reitman, who gave us the first 2 movies, and now has passed the torch to Jason. And I, tell you up front, I hope Jason gets involved more in the future with Ghostbusters because, man, he did a fantastic job. But before we start discussing the movie, you probably, who cares about critics?
I don't.
Yeah, we don't care about critics. This movie is an absolute love letter, first and foremost, to Harold Ramis.
Yep. 100%.
And then second, a very close second, is a love letter to the fans of Ghostbusters.
Yep.
And before we go any further, I do want to say that so far as love letters to fans and movies being made into them, this one did a much better job at it than a certain Star Wars movie.
And this is coming from our biggest Star Wars fan of the bunch right here.
Biggest one I know.
Well, look at it like this. Think of it like this. They walked so Ghostbusters Afterlife could run. So maybe, there's something to benefit.
No. See, I will agree with that, except that this is what happens when you actually put a script together and don't just do a round robin and actually work. Anyway.
Yeah.
Get off on a tangent, but I'm just saying this was phenomenal by comparison. This was very well thought out, very well done. And the critics can suck it, man. They did such a good job.
Yeah, you make a very interesting point there, because how many years has this been discussed and talked about, and people putting together, a script. Oh, a script's out there. And it took, this is the moment that I don't think any of us ever thought would be possible. And then when we knew that Jason was going to take hold of this, and the time that it took to actually put this together, and the 3, Ernie, Bill, and Dan have said this, it was just the right time. The script was right, and we weren't going to do it until we felt that it was the right time to do it.
Well, it was the right time. It was the right director. It was the right writers. Both Jason Reitman and Gil Kenan, they co-wrote this. And who better than to touch a project like this than Jason Reitman?
Yeah.
He was a great filmmaker in his own right. And he has the lore and the legacy like nobody else going into Ghostbusters. As far as, second generation, Dan and Harold, came up with Ghostbusters and then got in there with Ivan and all. And from the get-go, Jason was there.
Yep.
Jason has been around these guys his entire life. And he has always said that he had a vision. If he were to do a Ghostbusters film, he had a vision for a girl on a farm with a proton pack. Well, guess what you get in this movie?
Oh, yeah. and let's back up a second, Brock, if you could, for anybody that might be listening that doesn't know how Jason Reitman was involved in Ghostbusters franchise before he became a director, could you explain that a little bit?
There's a deleted scene that he's actually in the first movie, and you actually see that in Ghostbusters Afterlife when they're watching YouTube. It's very quick of Jason, Ivan, and Ivan's wife. It's like a split second on the YouTube video when you're watching Ghostbusters Afterlife, but that's Jason's first tie-in. And then, of course, in Ghostbusters 2, when Ernie, you're using real names, when Winston and Ray go to the birthday party, and there's this kid that he's credited as Brownstone Boy. My dad says you're full of crap. Yeah, my dad says you're full of crap.
He was the head yuppie larva.
Yeah,
that's right. Ungrateful yuppie larva.
Yeah,
yes.
That was Jason Reitman. So Jason is in Ghostbusters 2, but my dad says you're full of crap. So yeah, Jason is. I mean, this is in his blood. This is his DNA as a filmmaker and as a person who's been around it all his life. We'll point you to our friends at Yes Have Some podcast. As of this airing on Thanksgiving Day, they released about a half-hour interview that they had while they were at the New York premiere with Jason. It's a fantastic interview.
Yes.
So make sure you go listen to that. Jason gives us some pretty good insight on getting all the old guys back together and the new guys, the new kids. I am not a kid person, especially when it comes to movies and stuff. I don't like movies where children are the main focus. That's just.
Did you not like the Goonies?
I liked the Goonies when I was growing up. So yes, that was different as an adult. What I mean is, as an adult, I'm not crazy about movies that focus so heavily on kids. When they announced Ghostbusters Afterlife and they, McKenna Grace and Finn Wolfhard and Logan Kim and Celeste O'Connor, when they announced these guys, because I knew Jason was making it and I knew his lineage with it, it didn't faze me. It's a weird hang up I have. And I'll just tell you off the bat, these kids in this movie are so good.
Yeah.
They picked the perfect kids to do this. And I love it. Absolutely love that the kids are the future of this franchise. And I hope all four of them continue on in some manner, to be a part of it. McKenna Grace as Phoebe.
Oh, Lord.
Wow. Isn't she wonderful?
That young lady.
She's so good.
Wow. Logan Kim is podcast. You are going to, if you haven't seen it yet, which you shouldn't be listening to this episode if you haven't. Logan Kim is an absolute treasure. This was his first big acting gig. This was his first movie.
I think he had done commercials or something prior to this only.
I think he's so funny.
Yeah.
Celeste O'Connor is charming as she can be, and Finn Wolfhard, we all know him as Mike from Stranger Things. Fantastic. And what's really neat is you see each of the old Ghostbusters in each of the kids. Yep. You see Podcast is Ray, easily. Celeste is Winston. Finn is
Trevor.
Here I'm mixing up the real names and the movie names. Okay, movie names. Phoebe is Egon, naturally. Trevor is Peter, just a lot less creepy.
Now with less Thorazine.
Yeah, exactly. Now less Thorazine. And then Lucky is Winston and Podcast is Ray. Those personalities fit those 4 kids. Yeah. And like I said, I hope these kids are the future of the Ghostbusters franchise. Jason had mentioned that there's, at the end of this movie, which we'll elaborate on, the end of this movie opens up so many possibilities for sequels, and there's got to be sequels because the door is wide open for this universe. And I really hope they're involved in it in some point down the road. But the kids are fantastic. I had no issues with kids leading this movie.
Well, see, here's the thing. Probably like one thing I know I got thinking about this earlier when I watched it again. One thing usually with kids, it's, you can't identify them. We're all older guys and that's not our generation. We can't identify with them.
Right.
But there's certain things they did with this movie that made it identifiable. Like, of course, they're in a out there, old town type city or town. That's one of the good things I want to say. It was really smart putting that there because it took of course, Trevor, we'll get into it as we get further. He's always looking for a phone signal. Well, that kind of took cell phones and fancy technology, at least of that aspect out of it, to give it that kind of, these old kids feels. And the other thing, I think it makes it easier to connect with these kids. We were those kids when we were that age.
Yeah.
I mean, Ghostbusters was popular when we were that age.
Yeah. Because you always had that one kid that was, I guess I was the one who would just stay in the house and never didn't really get into a whole heck of a lot of trouble. You had the parent that would be like, oh man, I wish my kid would just go out and do what I did when I was a kid and then just get in trouble. And then you're watching the movie and she says that and literally the next scene, Phoebe's out they're out ripping through the town, shooting off, proton stream, just tearing everything up. It's like, okay, apparently she got the message.
Well, Jason has been quoted that we have ideas moving forward.
Well, I mean, as a recording right now, I would say worldwide gross is 60 million. So I'm assuming they're going to move forward with the sequel.
Dude, and the fan reviews on this thing, I don't ever dive onto Rotten Tomatoes. I've been on that website maybe 3 times in my life, but I know that the Ghostbusters social media accounts, the official ones, touted a 95% fan rating for this thing, audience score, which, that tells you, don't listen to the critics. Listen to all of us who have been more invested than some whatever name blogger.
Come on, look, if you're a moviegoer, you should already know at this point. You don't invest in critics. You just
I don't know how they have jobs.
Anything, I think a lot of what helped this film is word of mouth, because anybody that's gone to see it is talking about it. You have to go see this. This is Ghostbusters. And granted, everyone has their opinion on the 2016 Ghostbusters. Some people I've talked to were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Is this going to be a sequel to that? Is it going to be, is this has anything to do with it? The big thing that I've told folks has been, this is Ghostbusters that you remember. This is the Ghostbusters that we grew up with.
Yeah.
And that has gotten so many people out to see it. I had someone pop up on my social media that was like, is it, because I rated it 5 out of 5. I loved it. And they were like, wait, is it really that good? We were going to wait till it gets on streaming to watch it, but are you saying it's really that good? And I'm like, yeah, it's really that good. The film is really that good. You need to go and watch it. And to my knowledge, they have.
Yeah. Of course, like I said, if you're still listening to this, you're going to get spoiled, but just in case you like spoilers and still haven't seen the movie yet, get to the theater and support this movie.
Yeah,
absolutely. 100% support this movie. It hits for me personally, it hit all the feels just right.
And I know this is a new day and streaming is a thing now and studios take that into account, but a lot of this is riding on how well this does in the theater.
Yeah.
So yes, please get out and watch it.
I was telling Brock today that just another, you have all these different groups that you're a part of on Facebook that has, what your interests are. And I'm kind of in a group with a couple of these 80s Facebook pages and 80s nostalgia pages. And I told him this morning that I've seen so many people posting, outside of the Ghostbusters groups, of course we're talking about it and all of those, but these groups that are not, official Ghostbuster groups or whatever, and they're telling people the same thing. This, I saw this movie as a kid. I love Ghostbusters. Please, if you have that love of Ghostbusters from the 80s, you've got to go see this movie. And so it's, it's coming from people who are fans of the movie, but, not in the same level that some of us are involvement with Ghostbuster groups and things like that we do.
Yeah, that's like today. Like I said, I saw it today. Today is Sunday. I picked the 12:30 Sunday showing for me and my son to go to. Because I didn't want to, bother too many people. It was me and him. And when I reserved my seat, I reserved it Friday night, and there was like 4 other seats reserved. So I was like, it won't be that bad. I get there today, and it's a complete, like outside of the, the first 2 rows, which nobody wants to sit in anyway, unless they like neck problems. It was a packed theater. Like every row was full. Except for the first 2. So I guess, outside of the crick in the neck rows, it was a packed house.
Except for that, when I saw it for the first time with you guys, and we had that guy that was up in the front row, and he got to a certain point, he got so excited, he started narrating the movie. You remember that?
I didn't catch that.
I didn't hear. My hearing's bad anyway.
Okay. Yeah. But believe me, being it the first time I watched the movie, I noticed. The guy was excited, but it was... you still do get your crazy people that like to sit like really, really close up there and like look straight up in the air.
It's been funny for us to go see it after that first time and hear the reactions going on around us. I mean, we know what's going to happen. It's the first time that a lot of these people have seen it. So hearing those reactions where you're expecting to hear those reactions, they're there. And like Brock said, I feel so sorry for the guy that sat in front of us the first time.
Yeah.
we watched this. Brock was so audible. It was so cute.
No, it wasn't cute. I knew I was being a jerk, and I didn't mean to be, but everything I don't get excited at a lot of things these days because now I'm old and curmudgeon-y. But that movie, Bo sat on my right, Jess sat on my left. Mm-hmm. We went Thursday to the 4:00 IMAX showing, and we had another friend of ours, Lee, that was also in the row with us. The guy in front shot me a look when the movie was over. Like, you really could have toned it down, buddy. No. And I don't need to be like that, because here I'm sitting whenever I see little kids come into a theater, I cringe. Because I'm not a person that likes talking during a movie. I cannot stand for people to talk. And here I am, audibly reacting to everything in this movie because I'm so excited. And I'm like, I have
become the very thing that you hate.
Exactly. I am the jerk. And to that guy who probably doesn't have a clue who we are, and who probably will never hear this because our audience ain't that great as far as numbers.
No, audience is great.
The audience is fantastic, but the audience is not.
Nice save.
We don't have a massive audience right now. We get a lot of great downloads, but we don't have we ain't Joe Rogan, okay? So
I don't want to be Joe Rogan.
I do, because money. So yeah, our audience is great. We don't have a large, a massive audience.
I know.
So he's probably not going to hear this, but dude, I am so sorry. From the bottom of my heart, I am sorry. Because the kids that came into that movie to the first time that we saw it, the kids in that theater were great. Yeah. They were quiet. They were disciplined. I'm the idiot that's going, look, there it is. Point out Easter eggs on screen.
But Brock, you were the kid.
I turned into a kid.
You did.
This was your childhood. This was your thing.
I turned into it. I've not had any reactions. Even when Avengers Infinity War and Endgame and all that stuff, and I love the Marvel movies, but when those blockbusters were hitting, even, the whole audience would clap. I would clap, but I didn't get audible. Mm-hmm. I wasn't vocal about it. This one I was vocal, and I tried to. I'm not going to drone on about it. I tried to tone it down, but I was so flipping excited.
You just can't, but you can't help it. It's like you said, it's just that reaction. It's that love. It's that happiness, that joyfulness, the blissfulness you're experiencing, seeing these things come on the screen, that here it is. It's time I'm seeing this movie. I'm finally watching this movie.
Yeah, you're getting a couple of Marvel movies a year, and we're like, okay, yeah, we had Answer the Call in 2016, but as far as this universe, there's not been the Ghostbusters movie since 1989.
Right.
Yep.
So I apologize to that guy. I apologize to everybody around me.
Well, and that was very similar to the guy that I mentioned, which I'm sure it was very similar. He just seemed to be about our age.
Yeah.
And he just got really, really excited about the movie. And he just started just like he was sitting at home in front of his TV, just started talking. And I kind of, I honestly thought you guys heard him because I didn't say a thing about it because it didn't faze me. I was like, the guy's excited.
Did he say something about Baskin Robbins?
Yes.
Okay, I did hear that.
Okay, yeah, I did hear that part.
I did hear something.
Yeah, I remember that part too.
I did say something, mentioned the Baskin Robbins with Paul, so I knew where he was going with that. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, poor Bo said, go ahead, Bo, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good. The people behind us, though, I think we did a good service to the people behind us our first viewing as we pointed out every Easter egg. We were all like,
yeah, we were pointing at the screen.
Yeah.
And we caught pretty much we caught the majority of the Easter eggs on the first showing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because after going back and seeing what I've watched a few videos where they're pointing out Easter eggs. They didn't catch things that we caught, but like at one
rookies.
Yeah. Like at one point down in Egon's lab, there is the hang tag, the maid, please make up this room that Venkman had on his door at the beginning of the first Ghostbusters movie. He had that on his office door and it's hanging on Egon's cabinet down in his lab. And it's real quick to see it. And I'm like, oh, look, maid, I'm elbowing Bo.
Yeah.
What got me about that was, the way that Ray said it. One day they just came back and, Egon had packed everything up and had just left, and then just left them there. That means he would have had to have deliberately packed that up.
Yeah.
He took the maid hang tag.
It was probably in a box that Peter had tossed aside and he just started grabbing stuff because, the firehouse is no longer the HQ in this movie.
Right.
Well, until later, but
I'll say, while we're getting all this, do you want to just go ahead and roll into it?
Let's do it.
We knew we were going to be all over the place with this because our hearts, our minds are just full of all this that we've taken in.
Bo, you've seen it 3 times this weekend. Kevin,
how many
times?
This, yes, 3 times. I saw it just a few hours ago. Yes.
How many times have you seen it, Kevin?
Once.
Jess and I have seen it 4 times this weekend. Thank you, AMC A-List.
Yep.
But we got there Thursday afternoon. The theater opened, we got there at 2. The movie wasn't until 4, but AMC had those Ecto popcorn buckets.
Mm-hmm.
We discussed it last episode. We were going to get those no matter what.
No matter what.
So we go shaking the door at 2:00. It's locked. And I'm like, oh no, we're going to have to fight with people because this was a hot commodity. Well, the manager, we were walking away. The manager, Kevin is showing his right now with the lights on. Wish you guys could see it. We started walking away. The manager came to the door and he goes, hey guys, he goes, just want to let you know, we're going to open at 2:30. So about 30 minutes. Actually, no, we got there at 1:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got there at 1:30. It wasn't 2, it was 1:30.
You weren't playing around.
No, I'm like, maybe they're open.
Mm-hmm.
We knew the first movie didn't start till 3. And it was some other movie. I don't even know what. But he came out and said, hey, come back at 2:30. We're going to open the doors and you guys can come in and get your popcorn buckets and stuff.
He said, we don't open until 2:30. I was like, that's cool. We were just coming by because, so we're coming back to the movie at 4, but we were just curious about the Ecto popcorn buckets and y'all do have those. He was like, oh yeah. I was like, okay. I was like, well, we want to come and get those. He's like, sure, just be back here at 2:30. We'll get you taken care of.
And we walked.
We closed.
Yeah. Pretty much we closed.
We closed.
But he was nice enough to tell us.
Mm-hmm.
So we got back to the theater about 2:20.
Yeah.
And sat out there. And then finally right at 2:30, we started walking up. He's unlocking the doors and he goes, hey, good to see you guys again. Come on up. And so we went and we got our 2 Ecto popcorn buckets.
Yep.
And,
Brock, I was totally wondering when you were going to slip in the A-List plug there. AMC, if you listen to this broadcast at all or this podcast, you really need to sponsor us because, man,
you guys.
I'll tell you what, not even in the podcast, I hear all the time where Brock is just, him and Jessica both rave over A-List. Okay?
I signed up for it for this movie. I used it for like I said, Brock and Jessica were kind enough to get my first viewings taken care of, but I used it, my first reservation with it for my viewing today, and it's awesome. Like, it's definitely the way to go. I'm going to definitely use it. I'm definitely going to see the movie again probably during the week before Thanksgiving and a couple more times after that.
Yeah. AMC, there is no amount of love that I can throw AMC A-List right now that would be small. I love AMC A-List because, you get your 3 movies a week and we took care of 4 of those this weekend. As it rolled into the next week. So, but yeah, getting into the movie, So what we want to do with our Ghostbusters review is, if you're listening to this episode, you've seen the movie. We don't want to break down scene by scene, but we want to touch on the highlights that really meant the most to us from this movie. What are some of the key things that we've all picked up? So, at the beginning, I was kind of nudging Bo in the beginning because it didn't hit me all at once that was Egon at the very beginning of the movie where he's driving the truck and running to the house. And so that was my first, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they're actually including a physical Egon in this movie, because Harold Ramis died back in 2014. But it was really special seeing Egon. And what did he do? Did the terror dog murder him? Did he sacrifice himself? What are your guys' takes on it?
I'm under the belief that he did sacrifice himself to keep from being possessed.
I kind of agree with that.
I have two different ones. Like I said, of course, I think him being a 70-year-old man running from his life, and then the entire emotional anxiety attack of everything going wrong. I mean, his trap he had set up, he had this elaborate plan and it went to crap.
Right.
And then that's what I think may have caused it, because Phoebe says it was a heart attack. Mm. But then again, like, I know what you guys are talking about. I agree. Also, the self-sacrifice is a great idea, because later on in the movie, Groberson makes the comment about science is giving yourself the plague to find a cure. Right. Well, maybe he did sacrifice himself to become either a ghost or something afterlife. The movie's called Afterlife.
Right.
Maybe he assumed that just to, finally find his cure or, take care of things if he couldn't do it as a person. And to keep from being possessed.
Yeah, don't know if he had a heart attack just from the dog being there, or if he took that PKE taser. We don't know. Maybe that'll get answered eventually. But on the other hand, it's not really that important, because we believe that could have very well been the self-sacrifice, which is a very Egon thing to do. Despite later in the movie, people like Ray saying that Egon could rot in hell.
And him just putting off the vibe to, his the people in the town, that he was just nuts. He'd just gone crazy. A lot of people got that impression that he just went off the rails.
Mm. And I believe to an extent he nurtured that as well. With the town really thinking that he had gone nuts. He just kind of perpetuated that, because that meant that he could be left alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to protect the world from, the apocalypse.
Yeah. But it was really hard, with being such a family connection in this movie. For me, it was, it was really hard to see how much his family, especially, Callie, his daughter, just didn't like him. Mm-hmm. It didn't want anything to do with him. They just, they moved from wherever they were, they get evicted, and they wind up in Somerville. Janine is there. Janine shows up, and basically she's been Egon's caretaker, at least as far as finances and business deals, so he could concentrate. Did Janine have an idea what Egon was doing? Because she's taking care of all of his affairs, money managing, stuff like that. He's got no money. Mm-hmm. At this point, we're learning he doesn't have money. Like I said, Janine's been taking care of it, but how does she fit into this? We only see her for a brief moment at the farmhouse.
They had that special connection, that was established in, the 84 movie. I think if he wanted to confide in somebody about what he was doing, I think that she was the perfect confidant for him. But we don't know that. That's just one of those hidden mysteries that we find ourselves with this movie. And we were told, we have been told that this movie is a mystery. It's going to unravel like a mystery to us. So I just think that he had a hit. I feel like deep down he would have been able to confide in somebody like Janine.
Yeah. And further on that, who really ever knows exactly what Egon's working on? I mean, I know Ray probably tried his darndest to keep up with it when they were together, but I mean, the guy's always working on something like way out there. So I wouldn't have thought anybody but Egon would know what he was working on. especially with him being out there by himself.
Yeah.
Right. But, I mean, you see the cloud at the beginning of the movie and the proton stream coming out. Egon's got this. He's trying to take care of business. The townspeople have to see this thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, the kids who work at Spinners, they take Trevor out there. Lucky is there, and they constantly go to the mountain. Mm-hmm. So they have to be able to see these things. This mountain has to be within view of the town. We know it's in view of Egon's farmhouse because there's one shot that you see the farmhouse and you see the mountain in the background.
Well, it's in view of the town, like in the shot of the outside of Walmart. You can see the
right.
The terror dog that comes out of the mountain that comes down and swoops into the store. So it's at least in view of somewhat of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would be the strangest thing you've seen outside of a Walmart.
But I'm really curious where Janine has been during this time. And, at the end of the movie, and we'll touch on this in a second, but Janine is back in New York.
Yeah.
At that point, is she been living in New York, taking care of Egon's affairs from afar? Or has she been in Oklahoma from time to time just checking in on him?
I seem to think that she's had means to go back and forth between both cities. And I think that kind of ties into where we're going to hit towards the end part, the third final act-ish after credits scene on this. But that's kind of where I'll go with that at that point when we get there.
That conversation that happens where she's trying to piece together what happened to the original guys. Has she been in New York? Because she's got questions.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to it.
Well, I mean, we look, guys, we know that in the movie it was stated she was extremely disgruntled with her job. They weren't paying her much of anything. So, I mean, what's to say that after, since this kind of leans a little more on Ghostbusters 1 and not Ghostbusters 2, obviously the events of Ghostbusters 2 happened, but, what's to say after everything, it got to the point where they were only getting so many calls. She just left.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and at the point in this movie, we're going to realize everybody went on some way with their life at some point in this group of guys that were together at one point in time that were a team. Everybody went their separate ways.
Yeah. And that's very, very well documented for one of these conversations. But yeah, anyway, Janine's got a hand in this somehow. She knows what Egon's up to. To what degree, we don't know exactly what she knows. We just know that she's been taking care of Egon's finances, and she finally gets to meet Callie and the rest of the family, and just based on some dates and everything that we've noticed in the movie, Janine, and the fact that Janine is just now meeting Callie. Janine's not the mother.
Yeah.
Who's Callie's mother?
Right.
Who's Phoebe's dad? We don't know, and I'm hoping that will be answered down the line because this thing is wide open for interpretation and sequels.
And I wanted to add, I really hope that isn't answered in a behind the scenes thing or like a commentary or something. I really hope that gets saved for a future sequel.
Yeah. Something fleshed out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and by timelines that we learned throughout the movie that, and discussions we've had and that's been amongst out there that Callie had to be born prior to the events of 84.
Yeah.
And that's, like I said, that was based on the dates we saw where she's down at Egon's lab later on.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the kids don't know who Egon is. They don't even know his name.
No.
Well, they mentioned later in the movie, like the events of the original movie happened 20 plus years before they were born.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So the kids, at this point, Phoebe and Trevor don't know who the grandfather is. Callie has apparently never told them because Phoebe flat out says, "Why didn't you ever tell me my grandfather was Egon Spengler?"
Mm-hmm.
He was smart like me.
Yeah. He's not nuts. He knew what he was doing. It goes back to everybody in the town thought he was crazy. I mean, even one of the ladies at Spinners that brought the food out to Callie, hey, how long you here for? Well, we're moved into the farmhouse. Oh, the dirt farmer? Oh, yeah, you knew my dad? No, we didn't. Nobody knew your dad. So, yeah, Egon definitely kept to himself. And, when Callie's later in the hardware store, the hardware store owner calls him the dirt farmer. Wow, dirt farmer's got a family. So why does everybody keep saying that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well,
he didn't want to draw the ire or the attention of the authorities on this stuff because they, obviously, like the FBI and, Homeland Security or whatever.
The EPA.
They would never, yeah.
Walter,
there you go.
Walter Peck Jr. would show up again.
Yeah. I mean, they would never understand that. I mean, could you imagine trying to explain that? It would be no different than trying to explain the whole thing in the first Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah.
So, it actually was to his advantage for everyone to ask questions about the mystery and not about what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, getting back kind of into a little bit of character development as we move on, because we're going to be talking about these characters and
like all of them. That's the good thing about it. Like even though each kid's supposed to be a different representation of the ghost of one of the Ghostbusters, they all kind of have different personalities of each one. Like you said, at the same time, Podcast has got that Ray childlike quality. He also has that Venkman like confidence about himself.
All of them are kind of Neapolitan. They've got a blending of all the Ghostbusters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's definitely got some charm and confidence for sure.
And like I said, even though like with Phoebe, even though she is the successor of Egon, she does some of her with her jokes and how she kind of jokes around. She's got a little bit of the playfulness to her that, Egon, even though he was kind of just a straight scientist, he did a few funny things, but Phoebe's a little bit more of that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Phoebe's got the dad jokes that we all knew Kevin would love.
Oh my gosh,
from the get-go.
Man,
that very dry sense of humor in a sense, but it's hilarious though. It's just hilarious. Her delivery.
Like, you really get the first hint of that. That they're driving in the car to is when they first went to Spinners, and they're sitting at Spinners, and Callie turns around and says, you need to make some friends here. And she's like, make them out of what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, then she pops off the joke about the atoms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why can't you trust atoms? Because they make up everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we knew Kevin would fall in love with those.
I love her.
And like I said, I know we're skipping around, but like I said, still the best dad joke, but I still say it's dad joke, but also very Harold Ramis, National Lampoon, Second City style, but the hamster and cigarette joke. I mean,
yeah, where they're going out, they're lowering themselves into the mine of the Gozer Temple of Shandor Mining Company.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the joke.
What does a cigarette and a hamster have in common? They're both completely harmless to you. Stick one in your mouth and light it on fire. I mean,
and I know what an odd sense of humor that is, but it's amazing.
It's a great joke, and I kind of wish they would have saved that for towards the end when she's telling jokes to Gozer. Like that would, I mean, the ones the Gozer jokes are good, but that one's like to me is my favorite of all of them.
Yeah.
And she does her joke when she's meeting up with Gruberson.
Mm-hmm.
In the classroom, as the other kids are watching Cujo, she's looking at all his seismic maps and everything, and he's like, I'm trying to triangulate where these are coming from, and she's like, do you have this third piece of equipment? And he's like, yeah, I know what a triangle is. She goes, okay, I didn't know if you were being obtuse.
Wink.
And then gives that little wink, which that joke ties in. And I don't know if it was intentional, but, Bob Gunton, who plays, quote unquote, the ghost farmer, that's what he's credited as, but he's the stand-in for Egon. Bob Gunton was also the warden in The Shawshank Redemption, which is my number one all-time favorite movie. And Phoebe asked Gruberson, or says, just want to make sure you weren't being obtuse. And in The Shawshank Redemption, Andy, Tim Robbins, looks at Warden Norton, Bob Gunton, says, how can you be so obtuse? Mm-hmm. So I'd like to think that's a connection. That's what I took away from it. But I'm a Shawshank savant.
Yeah.
So.
You would like to see your two loves combining themselves in some way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just
by the way, in the scene, there is a Zaxby's cup on Gruberson's table. There's
really?
the tie-in.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I did not notice that.
Next time you see it, look down in the lower left-hand corner, and it's just the tip top. You see the Zaxby's logo on the cup.
This character of Phoebe just has my heart completely. She is so wonderful, and I love the way she uses, humor to try to break the ice with people, or to get in with them, because she's a little awkward. She's a little quirky, little awkward little girl, But she's worried. She's trying to use that sense of humor, to reach out to people.
There's a lot of really neat little Easter eggs scattered throughout, this scene. Like I said, there's a Zaxby's cup there. There's on the board, the dry erase board, there's a 143 JMR, which, kids today, or at least 3 years ago, 143 is a way to say I love you, because, the four letters in love and 3 letters, you guys know.
Yeah.
But JMR, is that Josephine Reitman? Was that Jason's way of saying I love you to his daughter in an Easter egg on Gruberson's board?
Yeah.
I don't know her middle initial, but that's what makes sense. It's not Jason's middle initial. So, another Easter egg as they're walking by the theater. You've got Cannibal Girls playing as Podcast and Phoebe are walking past, and that's Ivan's first film, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it was also what?
I was on the theater marquee in Ghostbusters too.
So that's a tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
What else sticks out to you guys around this first act, where we're getting to know the characters?
Mostly, like, I guess, even though they're a very, not really say dysfunctional family, but they are not the perfect picket fits family. They all care about each other. Trevor and Phoebe. They both care about their mom. Their mom cares about them, even though it's not perfect. Which, I mean, what family is perfect?
Right. Exactly.
So that's kind of one of the big things. Like I said, of course, that goes back. The main theme of this movie is family. And and then as it progresses on, it's not even just about the family you're related to, but it's the one you make along the way.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, it's just like the original 4 guys coming together. All these characters, all these kids are coming together.
This kind of ties into a later act, but just the feeling of absence and abandonment that you get from his family, it kind of echoes it. When we actually get introduced to Ray, whenever whenever Phoebe calls Ray, and he's like, he delivers the line, he could rot in hell. And you hear that emotion in his voice. It's like, man, I mean, your first thought is, oh man, he really screwed up. He's abandoned a whole bunch of different people, but it makes the ending even better when everything comes together and everyone is able to come to terms with it and realize that he did it for a good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course, at the beginning of the movie, all these reasons are totally unknown. Why did this man abandon his family? Why did he abandon his friends? And, and you're talking about with Callie, that evidently, Phoebe and Trevor's father is out of the picture. So her having that closeness with her kids means, that much to her. Their father abandoned them or is no longer in the picture. She went through the same thing growing up. So I think that's one reason she is what she is with her kids. Yeah,
and you don't really realize what Egon was doing until we get to the part where Ray explains it. Why Egon left, why he did what he did. But you see that maybe the spirit of Egon is really trying to connect. He's really trying to show that he's trying to show Phoebe his purpose, because, he knocks the chessboard off her windowsill. The PKE meter lights up whenever he's around, and he leads her to his mission. He sees in her, even though he's never met her, he sees in her that, okay, this girl knows this is, she can pick up where I left off. So she, she gets led down to his lab. She fixes the proton pack. With the guidance of Egon's spirit as he's pointing the light everywhere. I love lamp.
Yeah. He guides her along with the lamps. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And he's pointing her on that path, and, and she's realizing, hey, he's not nuts like everybody says he is, and he cares, and he's up to something. She hasn't quite figured it out yet, but he's up to something.
Yeah.
And of course that revelation to her comes later when the sheriff has got him in jail, and, Yeah, who you going to call? Well, she's got the phone number based off the old Ghostbusters commercial, so she calls, and there's Ray in his bookstore, and she talks to Ray, and Ray gives her the whole backstory of, why the business shuttered, why the business failed. And Egon to them, to Peter and Winston and Ray are, Egon is the one who turned the back, took all the equipment, took the Ecto, went to Oklahoma and said bye.
We had always figured, or we had always thought in the beginning before this movie was released that, Egon and Ray were, whatever was going on, they were in this together. They were working on this together. That was kind of our assumption, because the closeness that the two of them had. So, like you said, when we get to that point where Ray is telling Phoebe what's going on, you're like, whoa, everybody had a falling out. Everybody went their separate ways.
Ray talked a lot about how Egon even freaked him out. And, he got a little creepy for me. And so Egon took off, and, everybody thought they abandoned him. But Egon was, at the same time piecing together, as you see in the mine shaft, in around Gozer's temple down there, all these years are written around the top of the mine there, signifying different events in history. Egon has figured this out, and he's figured out that, Shandor, all the selenium came from this one mine in Oklahoma, apparently. So Egon went down there to see what's going on, discovers this temple, realizes, so that's why he stays in Oklahoma, takes off and stays down there.
That is one thing Afterlife does really good. It expands on Shandor and his attentions and all that, which I'm hoping I realize this. I hope it's not obvious, but the town, this might be just me in my head canon, but the town is called Somerville. Well, what was Gozer? A Sumerian god. I don't know if that's me,
Okay.
That's something, that's kind of an idea.
I didn't catch that. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, I didn't clue into that.
I don't know that. And like I said, I've made a remark other places. I really think that Evo was doing this to get in Gozer's good gracious, which wound up not that didn't pay out for him.
He tried.
Yeah.
And the kids are down in the mine, and Evo, his body is down in the mine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Evo was really torn on the subject.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Which I noticed this on my third viewing. Evo's costume, his suit is really cool. He has these sashes and it has the terror dogs on them, and I want to say it has the head of Gozer in the middle. It's a really cool. I want to see some close up shots of that.
Oh, okay.
I think he was expecting the next time he woke up, it would be standing facing Gozer, which is exactly what it was.
Well, yeah.
So he wanted to be in his Sunday best,
which was J.K. Simmons. But I'm not going to lie. At first, it looked like Billy Joel especially when he was still in the glass.
Hey, so man, only the good die young. Okay, he was old. He's bad.
We didn't cross the streams.
Oh my! And speaking of, that's how we discover. Yeah, that's how we discover the earthquakes, what they are. Yes. And it's because Egon, it's not Simply Safe. Yeah. It's Spengler Safe. He has set up a really, really awesome security system down there. Mm-hmm. There's that big well of, I call it a well of souls, and I've heard that somewhere, and I don't remember where I got that from.
It pretty much is a well of souls.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they keep bubbling up because, you see the years along the wall. It was originally naturally 2020 on there, but they had to digitally change the last 0 to a 1. So it's 2021, the date on the wall around the temple. And everything keeps welling up. And that's when you learn that there is a PKE meter down inside that pit. And when it starts detecting that the souls are coming up, it triggers 4 different proton packs, proton streams, and they all cross the stream. They all shoot down at each other, and they meet in the middle. And, one big proton stream pushes them all back down, and that's what's keeping the town safe. And that's what's shaking. That's what's shaking the area.
That's what's causing the earthquakes.
Back on Evo, though, did you notice that? When the first time that happened, he started to wake up.
Yeah.
And it's so if that's the case, then, you know, they went over the whole thing about the miners sacrificing themselves and doing the whole, what do they call it? The madness that they would jump off of.
Curse.
Yeah,
the Shandorian curse. That's what it is. Does that mean that Evo sacrificed his soul into that pit? So like every time it comes to well up, it starts to wake him up.
That could be a good. That is a good choice. I mean, I don't know if he either died of causes because he was he'd been dead for 75 years, but I'm trying to think. I can't remember how old he was.
But he is not jerky. He is like he's fresh, so it's kind of like he's bonded to the soul pit or something.
Yeah, I want some more explanation on A, why he's there, B, why does he reanimate? What bond does he have?
Mm-hmm.
You know, did he, like you said, did he sacrifice his soul for that? So that's what's keeping him there.
I mean, you know, it's there to be there. I mean, you know, you would think if he was really going to be somewhere, it would have been, you know, New York, but this is all adding on to previous.
You know,
stuff.
we may not get any more explanation on that because I would wager if we have another movie after this, it probably won't explore this anymore.
Yeah, this is closing the chapter on Gozer, at least in that form of the world building.
Right.
Yeah, and we'll touch on that in just a second.
I don't know. You know, he's devoted himself to following Gozer. So, you know, naturally, it's just, to me, it seems like he just wants to be, he's burying himself, you know, in the temple that he created, you know, to the god that he worshipped. So
it's just the fact that he did not decompose.
Right.
That's just like that's just what is eerie.
That's what's got me.
Yeah.
It had to have been some sort of like I said, it's like he bonded himself to the chamber.
You got to remember, there's times for suspension of disbelief. I mean, this is a franchise that has a 100-foot marshmallow man. And
it also has little bitty marshmallow man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, you know, move over baby Grogu, the mini Stay Puffs are here to rule the world.
That's right.
Yeah, those things are adorable. I mean, Jess giggles and coos when she sees them all the time.
Because they're just.
Now I want a shirt with baby Grogu and then the mini Stay, like he's eating one of the mini Stay Puffs or something.
Ooh, I like that. I'm sure somebody on Ripped or T-Fury will have that for you in no time.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really entertaining scene when the Walmart event happened. And Gruberson's in there, and Vince Clortho zooms down from the mountain, busts in there, and all of a sudden all the mini puffs come to life and cause just utter chaos and gremlin-like activities.
I remember when it burst out of the package there and it started walking to it, I was like, "Oh, sounds like a baby." It was making baby sounds and little kid laughters and stuff. They were just, here I go again. It's all about the little babies for me. So,
and as you said, it was the appearance of the Vin's terror dog, which goes into practical effects. Thank goodness they're still alive and well, because that terror dog looked beautiful.
Yeah, and speaking of practical effects and just touching back on Evo, when he is standing professing his love for Gozer, she rips him in two. That's a practical effect.
Oh, it was a real, like I guess a body double thing or whatever.
It was they built a dummy from behind of J.K. Simmons. They had it on a harness. Jason Reitman, go listen to Yes Have Some podcast, the interview they did with Jason. It'll be out, or it came out on Thanksgiving Day as of this release. But yeah, Jason talks about how it was a practical effect, that it was a rig inside of it that, you know.
Oh, wow.
When Gozer had her hands and moved it, that was an actual practical effect, tearing them apart.
And that's a beautiful thing. There's a balance of practical and digital effects in the movie.
Yeah, and a lot of those digital effects, you know, if you see the same we touched on this in a previous episode, but the special effects, if you've seen them in Ghostbusters 1, those are the effects from Ghostbusters 1. Yes. They went back into the archives, pulled that footage, and then digitally brought all the special effects, visual effects from Ghostbusters 1, like the big purple swirls, you know, that come down off the mountain or whatever. All that is just cleaned up Ghostbusters 1
they
effects.
Painstakingly reproduced it.
Yeah.
And the proton streams are beautiful.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
And hey, we keep dancing around it, but Gozer.
Oh.
That was Olivia Wilde.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Me and Bo are talking back and forth, and we were trying to figure out, it was like, that's got to be her. It looks like her.
She has a distinct look.
Mm-hmm.
She's got that her facial structure is very distinct to her.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw it, I was like, how in the world did they get Olivia Wilde to play Gozer?
Can I talk about one bit of fan service I really wish they would have done, which they do in the movie. Gozer has to have both terror dogs be formed, and they've enabled the coming of Gozer.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when one of the terror dogs gets trapped, and that's how they save Callie, she's half formed.
Right.
I really wish that, like, instead of her being like a whatever swirling ghost mess, rather her look more not as youthful and strong. It had been Slavica. I cannot pronounce her name correctly from the original movie.
Slavica, yeah.
Let her, because she's a little bit older looking lady now, and I mean, you know, understand it, and that would have been a really cool callback to her not be her still be Gozer, but her not be the full power Gozer.
Yeah,
you know,
like the young in her prime Gozer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I'm saying like Olivia Wilde is the prime, is the the fully formed Gozer, but like when she's half formed, there towards the end of the movie, you know, where she's trying to get the other terror dog back. Let that be
Slavica.
Slavica.
That's easy for you to say.
Let her be the half formed Gozer, but she still be Gozer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was just like I'm glad with everything we got, but that would have been a one little bit of fan service I would have been happy with. But you know, it wasn't like the whole movie was not gracious already.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Gozer was, unlike the last time we saw Gozer was actually able to come out of the gate and then sit on her throne.
Yeah, Gozer got a lot more screen time in this. That's one of the good things.
Yeah, it was needed.
Like, you know, Gozer was the big thing we were scared of the whole time in Ghostbusters, but really she was in form for less than a minute of screen time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
and they were debating on whether she remembered her or not. And then she starts, and then it's some of the things she said, the things she did, they're like, oh yeah, no. She remembers us for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll get to that. Yeah. We'll get to that whole part here in just a bit too, because that's that's kind of a lot to highlight and unravel in itself. Yeah. But,
well, that's like I say, that's about where we're about what we can all cover in the middle, all the revelations of, you know.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But I was going to say, just going back and like I said, try to keep us somewhat on track, but our thoughts are all over the place, just processing everything. But going back, you know, when she made that phone call to Ray, and of course, you know, I'm calling about Egon Spengler. You were hoping for a pleasantry towards that. And what did you get? Well, Egon Spengler can rot in hell. And that got an audible gasp.
Yeah, that hurt.
Yeah,
that hurt.
Yeah, everybody in the theater went, "Ooh, whoa!"
Because
they were thick as thieves, you know. But then when Phoebe fills him in that, you know, he died last week,
right?
And he's like, oh, and the look, and Dan did a really good job, at this part of showing a lot of regret for what he just said, and then that's when he finally eased into, well, here's what happened. Mm-hmm. You know, you learn that Peter is now as a professor, Dan is running his occult bookstore, and Ernie has made a mint, apparently, in the world of finance, which definitely we're going to hit on that in a minute. But you learn that the old guy split, you know, because Egon took off, left him, and according to Ray, that this firehouse is now a Starbucks, which we know is not the case. Yeah.
And Ray also talks about how, you know, at the beginning, everything was great, wonderful. So many calls, you know, had all this going on, then the ghost calls started dropping in and started dwindling and
yeah. So but before they could really jump in on that, you know, the phone call ends. Sheriff, who is Lucky's dad, hung up the phone, and so Ray's got to figure all this stuff out on his own, and we naturally assume, due to events later in the movie, that he's putting two and two together with everything that's happening, and he's got to get a hold of Peter and Winston.
Mm-hmm. Of course, after that, you know, you have Phoebe who's trying to explain to Callie that, you know, I need you to, and basically, you know, the kids have learned who their grandfather is. They've started figuring things out that he's been putting in place and what's going on in the town. They're still trying to explain this to Callie, to which she does not want to hear, because it's just caused, she just knows that her father abandoned her family, his friends, he just left everybody behind. And she still doesn't understand, you know, that there was a reason for all that. And then, of course, it becomes clear to her later, you know, not too long after this, you know, Egon shows up to her and guides her down to the Egon cave, the bat cave of Egon's farmhouse. So where Callie sees that he wasn't there, but she was always on his mind. He was keeping up with her.
Yeah.
Then of course we see this is where Callie gets to the point where she's possessed.
Yep. Razul comes after her, and
we know Vince has already got Gruberson.
Yeah.
Leading up to what we all kind of predicted would be to come about, with the whole situation with Gruberson and not seeing him in any kind of flight suit or Ghostbusters related. That him and Callie have become the source for possession for the Terror Dogs to bring Gozer back to life.
It was neat seeing both Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon take on the respective roles of Zool and Vince Clortho, because, as Rick Moranis would run around, like the park after he was possessed and, looking into the eyes of the horse and are you the gatekeeper? You see the way he runs is the same way Paul Rudd runs a little bit. Paul models his run and movement, physical movements after that, because he is Vince Clortho.
Yeah. And also, Carrie Coon being Callie, we know when she busts out the window, she kind of has that kind of weird run about her too, in a sense too. So, yeah. Yeah.
I love the effect where basically, the Zool dress, she you're thinking, hey, this is PG-13, don't be ripping off your clothes in this. She she starts ripping off her shirt, but at the same time, her clothes transform into that Zool dress that, Dana Barrett wears in the first movie. It was something very similar, gold and orange and shimmery. Mm-hmm. It was so many callbacks to the original film. And a lot of people were like, hey, where's Ghostbusters 2 in this? There's the Geiger meter down in Egon's lab. You see it really quickly when the light pans over to show off his degrees to Phoebe. Mm-hmm. It's there on the table. The toaster from Ghostbusters 2 is in the kitchen of the farmhouse.
Yeah. So, well, Raise a Cult.
Raise a Cult's there. So, Ghostbusters 2 is there. Yeah. It's canon.
It's just that Vigo has nothing to do with the whole Gozer storyline. And as it's pointed out, they stopped Gozer in 84. This time, Egon's plan was to trap Gozer.
It was to just totally destroy any chance. So...
And, and going back to talking about how he had developed, he created the proton packs in the cave to shoot down into the well. There was 4 streams.
Yep.
So I was like, that was his representation of the team. There's 4 streams. He could have put more than 4 there. But he stuck with 4.
Well, maybe he knows, like in the first movie, 4 finely tuned.
Mm-hmm. Right.
4 is the good frequency.
Well,
to have.
Yeah,
I just liked it.
He knew it worked.
Yeah, and that's why when you see, before they transform into the Terror Dogs, when you see Gruberson as Vince Clortho, he's down breaking this security system that Egon has. He's got a big wrench in his hand and he's twisting the proton wand and it shoots and blows up one of the other packs, which essentially just kills off, that 4th stream, and that weakens it and allows.
And even though I know in the movie something bad's supposed to happen, I'm not going to lie. It's just that, like, even though I'm like, no, don't do it. I'm like, even though I know it was going to happen, it's like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't tear up a proton pack or a proton stream, which I don't know if it was a full pack. I want to say it kind of want to be like one of the shoulder pack type things. I'm not sure. I want to see a real well lit shot.
Mm-hmm. It looked like it was the full pack.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a full thrower. I know that for sure.
Yeah, and the cyclotron covers were not on the packs because you can kind of tell that detail, the cyclotron, because you can see the innards of the cyclotron.
Speaking of the cyclotron, holy crap, the lights. No longer the slowly moving lights. The cyclotron now looks and sounds like a functioning nuclear reactor that fires stuff off.
Yeah, the movie magic caught up to the science. That's basically I think what it is. There's a good video with Adam Savage where he breaks open the proton pack, and Ben Eady, who was, I guess, the props manager for Afterlife, shows how he built all those, and it's on a little long pole with a light bulb at the end that's hooked on a pulley system, and it swirls about.
Okay.
So now we've got all modifier packs.
This is guaranteed. I'm building me an Afterlife pack now.
Yeah. Oh, hands down. So
as we start to move into, I guess, the final phase, the final act.
Yeah, we got to talk about the final act because Yeah.
This is where it's going to,
This is the bread and butter of this movie.
Yeah.
At least for, everybody wanting to see the original guys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's not even just a bookend on the movie. It's a bookend on a great story in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you get the repeat of they go up to the temple. They trap the terror dog that had Callie possessed.
Zool.
To pull Gozer away from the mountain. This is the whole plan working itself out.
And this is where Phoebe is trying her doggone hardest to crack Well, she's killing time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just cracking out the dad jokes and just keeping me in stitches.
Yeah.
Because I freaking love dad jokes. And I was rolling over laughing, man.
Yeah. And Podcast got the RC trap underneath Zool and was able to break her apart. That was such a cool effect to see her ripped in half. See Gozer ripped in half. That was such a cool effect. But yes, it would have been good to see Slovitsa. But so anyway, it is basically a recreation of the first scene from the movie where Egon is driving back through the cornfield and back to the farmhouse. They've got the Ecto in the mine, which there is a side entrance to the mine. It wasn't just the shaft with the elevator to get down into the mine. There's a side entrance, which you can see in the ending credits. They've got a diagram of all the tunnels and everything that lead into the mine. So they've got the Ecto in there. They take off. They take Callie's mom. So they get back to the farmhouse and, basically half Gozer is walking through the cornfield. And,
oh gosh, that is such a creepy shot.
Oh, it's great.
It's the complete opposite of Field of Dreams of if you build it, they will come.
Well, and it kind of echoed the beginning.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Right.
No, it exactly echoed the beginning, except this time you see what's coming through the field.
Well, the first time, it was one of the terror dogs. This is Gozer coming after them.
Yeah.
So, the stakes are even higher.
Yeah. And the power to the house still won't work, very well. The capacitors, which are the big grain tanks, silos or whatever. Yeah. Which reminded me of Doc Brown when they're down, when they're down in the lab. And they're like, wow, he's been down here working on a model. And you're like, oh, well, it looks great. All the detail.
Yeah.
It reminded me of Doc Brown building the models. So the kids are back at the house and they've explained to Callie this elaborate plan that Egon had been working on that they figured out. And they recreate, like you said, mirrors the first of the movie. And the whole dirt field is lined with traps. And so Egon's goal is to break Gozer apart, get every piece, get Vince, get Zool, whatever he can, get them into traps. So Gozer's not just banished to another dimension. Gozer's in the ghost trap where they've got control over
right.
him. Gozer can be a he or him, or he
That's
or
right.
she.
It's whatever it wants to be.
That version of Gozer.
In this case, it's Olivia Wilde.
Yes. So, Gozer's firing out the lightning from her fingers and then, hey, flat top. Then all of a sudden, there are the three guys.
There they are.
Oh, man.
And, it's hard to see that. It's not hard to see Ernie like that because Ernie doesn't age. But Dan we'd already seen, but Bill, it's hard seeing him as Peter at that age.
Yeah.
But and the guys really didn't move a whole lot, and I understand that because they're.
I think also I think the lighting for it to be that dark and detailed lighting made them look a lot older than they did. Because I've seen, you see pictures of them at the premiere, and they didn't look as that. And I mean, this is 2 years prior to the movie being released.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a lot of it was the lighting, but they did look old. But I mean, that should have been the effect,
Yeah, that was probably intentional.
Yeah.
Because they really wanted to see, okay, they're definitely very, very much older.
And all I know is I wonder if Ducks Unlimited is getting an influx of people buying their shirts. Thanks to Ray.
That speech was that.
That was so
Dan.
Ray.
Everything about that being the callback to '84 was just perfect. And of course Winston. I think she remembers us. And
when she actually pulls the streams apart.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, that's. Woo.
Oh yeah, she remembers us.
And Bill and like I said, and Bill being Bill, just throwing off all the lines like, oh babe, I thought we were done. We are all that, and it's that whole.
He went full Vinkman.
Yeah,
I think that's why that movie, like this last few minutes of this movie, really gets you because it gets you on that emotional high of oh my God, the Ghostbusters are back. Even though they're old, they're back.
But we gotta hit on this moment when Phoebe and Gozer are fighting it out Harry Potter style.
Yes.
All of a sudden you see that blue glowing hand reach under Phoebe's to steady that stream because she's a little girl. And
yeah, but she handled it better than Melissa McCarthy. But anyway,
there is as the camera pans around her and up, there's Egon.
That was the one thing I did not expect to actually see him physically represented.
That was such a surprise. But when that blue hand showed up, I'm like, oh, they about to. I'm thinking, oh, they're not going to show. They're not going to show anything but his hand, maybe the side of his face, like they did at the beginning. Mm-hmm. No, and it did not go Uncanny Valley. They used CG, on a live stand-in for Harold Ramis, and it looked great.
Yeah,
that was when the waterworks turned on, folks. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I should not be smiling and crying at the same time, but that's what happened.
There was too many emotions flooding through my system at this point in time.
Like I said, it's powerful. Like I said, I said on my social media post, my 6-year-old son, he likes Ghostbusters. He's not as nutty obsessed as I am. But like even he audibly went, "That's Egon," and like that tells you how powerful it is.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
His presence is there.
Yeah. They all and as he's helping, and the other three guys are standing next to him, and Winston cuts his eye. Winston turns his head, and all of a sudden nudges Peter with his arm, and they all look over and like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
And of course, Peter later, I knew you'd show up.
Yeah.
And he stuck around long enough that people were able to get closure.
And I'm
and the thing is especially with Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Bill, I think this was closure for Bill because of that strained relationship that Harold and Bill had ever since Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
They made up towards the end of Harold's life, but I think this was closure for those guys too.
Of course, absolutely.
Well, I mean, it could also be like Beetlejuice. They had to go back. He had to stay there because he had unfinished business.
Yeah.
It made me think this goes back to closure. Like one good thing I'm glad is Egon did not speak. And I think that made the face look more real.
Yeah. He didn't need to. That
he
was
spoke
perfect.
with his eyes. Like they talked to him and he like gave a look or a nod.
Yeah.
And I think that worked. That worked better most than like the kind of the other where they've passed away actors and they've spoken. It looks very unnatural.
Yeah.
Well, and because he was corporeal, they didn't have to, the special effects didn't have to be like phenomenal. Like, when they did Star Wars Rogue One, where they brought back Tarkin and they did that, where it had to be spot on. And even then you could still see some weirdnesses.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do that. It wasn't as clear. It was kind of like it was staticky a little bit. So with that, you could still look and there was no doubting who it was. We knew exactly who it was.
Yeah.
Everything. And you could just read his eyes, like you said.
And the guy that was like, now you're saying the ghost farmer from, you were talking about earlier from Shawshank, is he the living version of Egon? And then
I think he's both.
I thought it was, there was a younger guy. I cannot think of his name, but he looks very eerily similar.
Some guy named Oliver or something. But apparently that was not him. He played some character named Elton that was cut from the movie. So I think Bob Gunton was Egon throughout his stand-in in that whole movie. Because Bob's about that age and has a look, especially around the eyes, similar to Harold.
Yeah.
But as we're winding down here, Violet Ramis Steele, who is, Harold's daughter, was the second person to read the script behind Ivan after Jason Gill finished it. And I'm so happy that she and Harold's family signed off on that, because that you couldn't have asked for a better way to honor Harold than what they did in this movie.
And to see the whole closure there at the end, him connecting with his grandkids and then with Callie, and then him, after that final hug with Callie, just drifting off into the stars, and the big for Harold came up on the left side of the screen before the movie even ended, which was really, it's not something you see in movies where a dedication comes while the movie's still on. And that was really good. Of course, the final shot was the Ecto driving back because Winston looked down at the car like, oh, what have they done to you after it had been beat up
to pieces. He's like, we're going to get you home and clean you up. It's like, okay. So taking the Ecto back to New York, and then you see the final shot of the movie, at least the normal movie pre-credits was the Ecto driving back across the bridge into New York.
Oh man!
So let's hit on these.
Home.
Let's hit on these credit scenes. The first one, mid credits, couldn't have been funnier.
Yeah.
It showed Sigourney's name in the credits, and I know Jess looked at me and goes, "Where was Sigourney?"
And then
the very next thing, as soon as Sigourney's name disappears, there's Dana and Peter in their New York apartment, I assume, and they've got the shock machine. She's got him hooked up to it, and she's showing him the Zenner cards, and she gets it out of him. I shocked everybody, and the cards are marked, and
it shocked only the male students.
Shocked only the male students,
which was very obvious to anybody who watched. It was like that was exactly what he was using it for, was a way to get dates,
right? And it's a very inconspicuous nod that those two are now married because he professes her love, and they're both wearing gold wedding bands. So Dana and Peter got married, which was fantastic. But I before we run out of time, I want to hit that end credit scene.
Oh
gosh!
They showed the deleted scene of Janine handing him the coin, her lucky coin from the World's Fair, and next thing, and from that deleted scene pops over to
current day
to Janine holding that same coin, and she's in an office building talking to Winston, and you hear the voiceover from Winston.
Peter had kept it cool.
Yeah, Peter kept it cool.
Ray was the heart.
Egon was the brains. And Janine's in Winston's office and goes, well, what were you? Well, it's a sex appeal.
So true.
I don't know who said that line more, Ernie or Winston.
Oh, Ernie said that. Ernie's a good-looking man. We know Ernie personally, and Ernie's always a good-looking guy. He's such a great guy. Love Ernie. But, Ernie starts talking about what he's been able to do for himself. Ernie is running this massive global corporation. We don't know what it is, but you
keep saying Ernie. It's Winston.
It's because I know Ernie personally.
I know, right?
So it's Winston running this big global corporation, and he's talking about he helped Egon keep the lights on. He's helping Ray in the bookstore. Ray will eventually turn a profit on the store. And he talks about building his company and what he's been able to do. And while he's talking, it shows the firehouse. Inside the firehouse, old, abandoned, which means it was not a Starbucks. Ray's memory is always not that great anyway.
Or he just doesn't go around that area anymore. He has no clue what's there.
And they show Winston in the firehouse, opening the doors, the Ecto's rolling into the firehouse, and he's looking around. So you naturally know that Winston has bought the firehouse.
Yeah.
But then what's that?
I'm sorry. I want to make one observation. Winston talks about he started that company with one employee. I saw where somebody...
Lewis.
Yeah,
they think it's Lewis.
I think it's Lewis too. I would love it.
So I think hopefully they can get Rick Moranis back into the universe.
Yes.
in the sequel. And we know there's going to be a sequel because Winston has that line that, seeing Egon got the tears out of me. But Winston's line, the last line of the movie, got me so hard because we as Ghostbusters fans, we put the suits on, we build the packs, it means something to us. But he goes, I've always been
I'm a businessman.
I'm a businessman, but I've always been a Ghostbuster. That line drove me to tears all 4 times I saw it.
Yep.
And the last shot of the movie, of the post-credit scene, is the bottom of the containment unit, all cobwebbed up and rusty and nasty looking, pans up, the blinking red light on top of the containment unit.
Yeah.
There's going to be sequels, and this opens up so many possibilities. The sequel world is now wide open. But Jason, in his interview with Craig, Abby, and Jake, he said that, Ernie had kind of gotten the shaft a little bit. Well, not a little bit. He said a lot with promotions and placement in the movie and stuff because the other 3 guys.
Yeah.
But he said his vision for the future of Ghostbusters is Winston and Ernie.
Oh,
Winston, like I said, he's become the Bruce Wayne of the Ghostbusters universe. He's the benefactor.
Where Egon was Batman with all the poles and stuff he installed.
I mean, we think
so. The Lucius Fox.
Yeah. I mean, we based on what he said, we assume that's the way it's going to be.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because... But the door is there. But that's why he envisioned.
And that's why I like to think, too, that he had a hand in assisting Egon. Maybe Egon didn't know this or wasn't aware, but I think Winston's been behind this, the support of his friends this whole time.
Yeah.
And I did like the fact that it ended with Janine and Winston talking together, being that, the first person Winston met upon becoming, the Ghostbusters is interviewing with Janine. So seeing the two of them together in that scene was...
That's where my thoughts earlier is, where is Janine currently? Is she in New York?
Mm-hmm.
Is she working for... I don't think she's working for...
Winston, yeah. She's kind of learning about that as we do.
Yeah.
So...
But I think they've definitely been in communication.
Yeah. So... Well, there's a lot we could touch on.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, we could recap the movie and everything else in depth, but you guys, if you've listened to this, hopefully that means you've seen it, because we just spoiled everything. Almost everything. We spoiled the big ones, at least. Mm-hmm. But there's so many good things in this movie, and so thrilled. And I think you said a $60 million opening weekend worldwide, which is fantastic.
Yep.
And, this movie... I don't think you could have asked for a better movie.
I agree.
Ghostbusters movie. This was beautiful. This was the biggest love letter to Harold Ramis and to the fans that I think you could have had. It's
been worth the wait. It really has.
Yeah. 32 years. And I hope there's not 32 more, because I'll be dead. Well, at least I'll be, Bill's age.
Then again, I just keep saying thank you, Jason Reitman.
Yeah, thank you, Jason Reitman.
Yeah, I know all the guys, Ghost Corp, Eric, and all them. They've given us a special gift that it's better than I could have imagined.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing our guys back together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this could be the final ride for Bill and Dan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfectly fine.
And that's okay. This was the send-off they need,
Exactly.
Hopefully Bill's going into the farmhouse, getting his cocoa with a hint of whiskey in it, like I said. So, but hopefully it's not, I'm really hoping it's not the last for Ernie, because they have opened up such a good door, at least in the sequel, they've opened up the good door for Ernie, for Winston, I know, for Winston to make it all happen.
Yeah.
Ernie and Winston are the same guy. I don't care. You can't tell me any different.
They're all the same guys. Every one of them. The Ghostbusters are not... Dan, Peter, and Winston are not characters. They're the actual guys.
And who knows? Over the next couple of weeks when we record, we may still touch little bits here and there.
Oh, we will. We will. We're going to be talking about this for ages.
Yeah.
This was such a great movie.
Yeah, because I'm going to see it probably at least 5 or 6 more times before we record again.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
We got a couple more viewings in us, too. So.
Yep. So... Well, closing thoughts, guys? Any last thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife?
My heart is just so happy and full of joy.
And you're
yes, have some.
And I shed tears of Niagara Falls coming out of my face there.
And you have your Ecto popcorn buckets from AMC.
That's right. Got the buckets.
Yeah, it's tears, a river of tears every time I watch that movie. Yeah. Oh man, it's
cannot wait for it to hit Blu-ray and everything else, but at the same time, I really am going to miss that sound in the theaters.
Hey, we got enough time to get you a sound system by the time it drops.
We have enough time, but I don't have enough money.
That's true.
And let's just hope for all kind of goodies in the Blu-ray release and extra scenes, deleted scenes, commentary, all that'll come with it.
Yeah. So. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of Bama Geeks. We hope you've enjoyed our discussion on Ghostbusters Afterlife. We hope you enjoyed Ghostbusters Afterlife. We adored it, as you can tell. And there's so much more to talk about, but this is where we'll wrap it up. We just wanted to give some cursory thoughts on it. I didn't want to give a recap because you should have seen it by now. I know all of our friends have. But we'll wrap it up and hope you guys will join us for the next episode.
Good night, everyone. Or goodbye.
Good night.
Bye.